Every fragrance of silicon that falls from the sky is unique.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, are Petty and Gallix. All right, let us get to the holiday news, such as it is. Gallix, why don't you start us off this week?
Let's see. I mean, it's not super holiday yet, but it's certainly getting there. My office, we had our holiday party Monday, so that was fun. We did a Yankee swap, and I ended up with a periodic table of Maine mug and a weighted blanket, which was nice. We actually did something different here. We like it at a restaurant type place instead of just at the office, and that was nice. Let's see. It is just raining right now, I think, here, and it'll probably end up taking out most of the snow we have left over from the last storm, but hopefully it doesn't turn to ice. The heater at the office is apparently broken, but I like it cold enough that it's not a big problem, although
Is it
I
still
didn't
a
know it was
pipes
broken
freezing
yesterday, so we
problem?
worked from home.
Yeah. I know near winter in Maine, there is also the issue of pipe freezing problem, but that's not good for the office.
I think it's just our office and not the restaurant downstairs,
Fair.
but I'm not 100% sure. And yeah, the pipes I'm sure are insulated well enough in an office building. He says.
Yeah, I was about to say one would hope.
It's the ones that are like on the outside of the building that would be an issue, and we don't have too many of those, I don't think. And it's not like the power is out, it's just like the HVAC. Yesterday everybody worked from home. Today they went back in, but it wasn't fixed yet. And tomorrow it won't be fixed either, but tomorrow I'm going to wear a long sleeve shirt, so I borrowed someone's fleece since it was slightly lighter than my actual coat that I wear. So yeah, that happened. Apparently, the one of the gunpla that I ordered is having trouble being delivered, partially because of the office being closed for the last 2 days. So that's lovely. I have subscribed to UPS alerts or whatever from my phone so I can see if they try to drop it off tomorrow, which I hope they will, because I might be off on Friday.
Oh,
because
they're delivering it to your work?
Yeah, I got a couple of things delivered to my work instead of to home.
I guess that's fair.
Partly because the easiest place to get them was Amazon, and my parents don't like using Amazon, so I don't really like using Amazon either, but it's easier to not have to explain to my parents, oh, hey,
Right.
I got this on Amazon because I literally couldn't find it anywhere else for a reasonable price.
Right.
Anyway. So hopefully they'll try to drop it off tomorrow and I can catch them in the act. Because they said they made an attempt to drop it off today and couldn't, but there was no reason why they couldn't have dropped it off today. I think that's pretty much. My family has worked out our holiday plans, so we're gonna actually be doing our thing. We're going to Massachusetts and not having to overnight in Rhode Island, which is good. And we're doing it between Christmas and New Year, so it shouldn't require much in the way of extraordinary plans on my part, which is good.
Mm.
I think the show will be completely off then, so I won't have to worry about missing reviews.
Outside of Teddy's Digimon streams.
Yeah.
It's not a Friday, so
Okay. I'm just saying,
it's
Yeah.
a Sunday because that's the only it's the 28th.
but yeah, this is why we're off during the holidays, because holiday plans usually happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Funny how that works.
I still have a bunch of holiday shopping to do, and I'm not thrilled about it. I mean, the stuff I'm most excited about is shopping for like the nieces and nephews, and that's still tricky because who knows what they want and need. I have asked, but I've only gotten some responses. Anyway, that's most of the stuff. Video game wise, I have been continuing to progress in Super Robot Wars Y. I have been playing a bit of Pokemon Legends ZA, of which the DLC just dropped, and I have not progressed far enough in the main game to have any significant access to the DLC. So, although I do hear that the DLC gives you more options for research from the professor, which makes it so that maybe you don't have to do the Battle 1000 trainers thing to get the research up to the highest level. So, that would be nice if so.
Mm.
And obviously the Digimon DLC also came out, but we won't be seeing that until
A while. Apparently, it's extreme post game.
yes, although you might have access to some of the Digimon that it adds as
Yeah,
soon
I
as
can make the
we
Digimon
can
once I
get
hit Agent
megas.
rank 7, but we
Yeah.
won't be able to actually do the DLC's plot until
Look, the
I hit
parts
post
that
game.
I'm most excited for are having those guys in the party, not whatever alternate universe plot they throw on.
I guess fair. I will see what I end up cooking up with.
It sounds like the routes they're adding are pretty minimal, unfortunately. Although Parallelmon does get 2.
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed that the Crestgreymon and Blitzgarurumon are apparently only from normal Metal Greymon and normal Weregarurumon,
Mm,
and not virus of either, or like
adding Altarius mode, Sagittarius mode.
in the first VPET it came from, Crestgarurumon evolved from Metal Mamemon
Hmm.
because that was Garurumon's only ultimate on the VPET version 2.
Right.
And I like it when they remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I think pretty much all unfortunately this past weekend, my local was they had a release event for the Renamon Advanced Starter Deck thing.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, there was a scheduling confusion based on the posted time and the actual time it was, and my store had only gotten 8 of the things, so
Oof.
I got there a couple of minutes late and was not able to participate because they were out.
Are they at least going to hold one for you at the pre-release price, or?
I think the pre-release price was a little bit higher because they added a pack or
Mm,
something, or
I
prize support.
I guess would they still honor that, or are you just going to go buy one on regular price online if you so choose?
They should. I think they've gotten more in since then, so I'm
Mm.
gonna see what they have on Friday if I go over there.
Yeah, because I know, like, my old locals, that happened a couple times, and they're like, yeah, no, if you come in, basically pay what the entry fee was, we'll just give it to you. And they just ended
Mhm.
up raffling off the prize cards in like, one of the local tournaments.
Yeah, I don't think they. I don't know what the procedure, what all of their procedure is, but I know
Mm.
that they don't do
And
that really.
every
So,
store has their own, like, procedure for that, so it really depends on what theirs is.
hmm but yeah, I think that's about that I've got.
Nifty. So it's my go.
Yes.
Well, over the weekend, one of the local boutique shops that my mom and sister are friends with the owner. Her husband was dressed as Santa Claus so kids can get the pictures with Santa. And my sister and I decided to bring um my cat Soul and her cat Scuttle on a little adventure. So they have pictures with Santa, and everyone was just oohing and awing over Soul because he was such a good little boy. Because he just wanted to hang on to me, which that's totally fine. I would much rather him when there's a lot of people be wanting to be on me than trying to hide somewhere. But yeah, that was fun. I still owe him a pup cup. Um, and yeah, I was going to see about doing the Renamon event, but A, we had the pictures with Santa thing, and B, the person who I was going to go with unfortunately had to cancel due to prior obligations. So I ended up just ordering one of the starter decks online because the local area just sold out of them. So to TCG Player we go. Um, so yeah, that's going to be interesting. It's funny, I got the deck, but mostly there are some option cards in there that I'm more interested in the Renamon stuff itself. Specifically the blue plugins. Because giving anything jamming is fun. As far as gaming, I've been playing Digimon Story Time Stranger. I do need to get back more into some grinding because Friday, Gullix and I chewed through a couple worlds, so I need to basically go fill out my catalog on Digimon available. I do have Ultimates unlocked, so that's just one more thing of building out the catalog of Digimon. Um, Trying to think of what I want to do over the break. I did end up getting Stellar Blade at GameStop, so I don't know if I want to play some of that while we're on break or really what all I want to do. Because I did play the demo for Stellar Blade and I found it interesting, and I got it for like $30 at GameStop, so I was like, sure, why not? Um, yeah, as far as like holiday shopping for me, I think I'm done. So there is that. As far as the homeowners insurance saga, we have heard nothing. Not even a formal, denial from the insurance company. Technically, they canceled our policy, so I don't know if they're still reviewing it. Because unfortunately, because of the holidays, I don't know how backed up they are. It could be sometime in January when we finally get a final decision. So that's a thing. Um, Mom is still looking into getting I believe it's called a HELOC loan, basically using some of the home's equity to get a loan so we can help fix up the house. So if we do need to get new homeowners insurance, we can have some of the issues resolved, like the bathroom downstairs needs redone, and there's some electrical work that needs done. Stuff that you don't normally have the money on hand, so that's why we're getting the loan for. So hopefully that can be resolved before the break. Well, before the end of the break. Because, yeah, the bathroom is downstairs, but it's still just a large reno project in the house. I don't want to deal with that while dealing with show stuff. So I think that's it from me. I don't have anything big planned the rest of this week. So, Adam, you go.
Okay, let's see. The good news is the washing machine part has finally come in and is getting repaired tomorrow. So I can finally do laundry.
Oh man,
Like
without
without
having to
having,
produce coins.
yeah, I mean, I actually got $20 worth of coins the other day in anticipation, but got the call, so I don't know. Maybe I deposit those back or whatever.
Maybe you
Point
put
is,
them
I
in a
don't have
sock
to.
for self-defense.
I don't even have to put it into a sock. Just holding both rolls in my hand. If I
Fair.
were to clock someone with that, they go down.
The likelihood of them getting back up is close to 0.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So did shopping, but not holiday shopping. So my oldest nephew has a birthday like a couple of weeks before Christmas, like on the
Ooh.
15th, if I'm remembering correctly. So that means I have to pick up a birthday gift and a Christmas gift.
At least it's good they don't
Um,
combo them like some people who have birthdays close to Christmas. Their families end up comboing it with Christmas, so they basically lose their birthday.
yeah. So, point is, I got the birthday gift a couple of days ago. And I know some people are going to disapprove of this, but you know what? I do not really care what the busybodies say because I'm getting him some Robux.
Ah,
Like, and yes, I know the stories about Roblox, child exploitation, pedophilia,
is he
that
old
sort of.
enough to be online safely?
The thing is, he's not really online. Like local server stuff. He plays with his
Okay.
siblings.
Okay, that's slightly better. As long as, somebody is able to monitor them, they're not sneaking
Yeah,
into the wider world, that could be a problem.
and that's kind of the thing that his parents let them play. That's kind of what they chose.
Well, letting them
So
play and actually monitoring them are two very different things.
yeah, the point is that's their job.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not my job. My job is to show them things that they're not supposed to see.
Be the menace uncle.
Basically, like I'm the one who actually allows them to watch Family Guy,
Mm.
that kind of thing. Once again, as far as Roblox, I don't know if he's gotten virtual currency before, but he's becoming a teenager officially this year.
Ah.
So he's going to be old enough for free to play gas games. And once again, I know how much people on the internet hate these things, or at least claim to hate them. Like I'm pretty sure a good chunk of them engage in one
I was about to say
or
the
another.
usage / monetary gains charts say otherwise.
Right. And it's
I mean,
also,
you can hate a game and still play it.
I'm very well aware of this. I'm like, the point is, the overall fact of the matter is, this is where the kids are.
Mm-hmm.
Like kids are playing Minecraft, they're playing Roblox, they're playing Fortnite on their phones. That's just the way of the world. It's it's less it's less Nintendo Switches and PlayStations and more Android and iOS devices.
Mm-hmm. Believe
So,
me, I
like,
know. My niece doesn't know how to use a keyboard and mouse or really a controller, but she can use a smartphone.
yeah, that's ditto my nephews and niece.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I still remember his attempt at playing Sonic with a controller. That was embarrassing. Like, he's playing Sonic 2 on his phone now.
You got to do what I do with my dad and like teach them how to fucking hold the controller and like how you do the thing where you put your thumb on two buttons at once.
Yeah, but that requires more effort than I'm willing to put into it. Yeah.
Okay, I don't mean that as you have to do that. I mean the best way to do it is probably.
Right. But he's just not really expressed an interest in that since the attempt.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he was that discouraged by his performance. Oh, well, now as far as Christmas goes, the plan is to let the kids pick out something from like Walmart, at a decent price.
Yeah.
Um,
The back in the day for us millennials, the Toys R Us run.
yes. Same idea.
Rest in peace, Toys R Us.
Like, and as far as gaming goes, finally put down Haven. One of those games that I liked well enough, but it's also one of those games where the smaller design errors started building up.
Mm.
They don't mean much like hour 1, but in like hour 22, I'm just sick of them. Like, I'm sick of the fact that the fast travel has to be accessed in a really stupid way.
Right.
I have to go to like a patch of land. I have to put down some bait and get on this giant creature. I guess it makes thematic sense internally, but here's the thing. That also means I'm limited into where I can access fast travel. That's one of those game design ideas where I'm going, I get what you were going for here, but it's like you made this way too inconvenient for me to actually use properly. Like, and therefore it's kind of shit. Like, that kind of thing. Or it's like, I'm unable to get to certain areas unless I find like a certain thread that will guide me to that area. And I have to keep doing that even after I access the area. Even if I want to get to a place really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about here. Stuff that, is a micro aggravation at the first few hours, but 20 plus hours in, I'm just like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of dealing with this game's foibles. So I've moved on to Ace Combat Assault Horizon, which is the spin-off Ace Combat game, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm.
I know it's like I don't have much experience with this franchise. Anyway, so that's my news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week, once again, is Tom Frencel of Little Guy Games.
Hi, guys.
Well,
It's good to be
welcome
here.
back.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes. Glad to have you back, and under much better circumstances.
Yeah, things are working flawlessly tonight, so I'm happy about
Yeah.
that. Great job.
You're not the
setting
only
everything
one.
up.
Yeah. Anyway, this is basically part 2 of our interview. If you want to catch up on part 1, it's on YouTube. It's episode 15A of this season 22. Apologies for the tech problems that occurred in that episode. That's, I believe, the episode where Petty had to go to the ER, or definitely still dealing with his eye infection there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Damn, Patty, how is your eye? How is
Um,
your eye doing now?
A lot better.
Nice.
yeah. So
That's good. That's good to hear.
with that, all of the background information on Little Guy Games is there. So we'll be able to get right into Endless Night, the darkness within. Right. So for the uninitiated, what is this game?
In simple terms, it's basically a 2.5D Metroidvania that explores the um, inner psychology of one's mind using the Jungian archetypical or archetypes, psychic archetypes, basically. So it's sort of like rather than going and conquering something like a castle or basically going out on an adventure that's fighting monsters, which you still do in Endless Night. You go inside your own mind and you're trying, or the main character's mind rather, in trying to figure out what happened to them, sort of piece together their life story.
That's certainly a stand-out premise for a Metroidvania, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. I think Metroidvania is definitely, I guess, a modern way of building a platformer, because we begun this game a long, long time ago, more than 10 years ago. We began working on the first installment of Endless Night. It used to be called The Last Sky back then. And our studio at that time didn't have a lot of expertise and experience building fully 3D worlds, basically like a FPS style interactive experience. We decided to make a platformer, and from that point on, we evolved it to make a Metroidvania game. And then the theme and the story of the game is really kind of the I guess what makes it stand out from the Metroidvania genre. Um,
Right.
Yeah.
So did the theme come about when it made the transformation into Endless Night, or did the theme transmogrify this into Endless Night?
a little bit of both, actually. So the theme was always there to take this character. His name is Jake, and wove in different concepts that are interesting and sort of outside of the realm of maybe science and psychology and kind of spirituality, and intertwine them together and do like a deep dive into this character's life at various points of his life. So when he's a child, when he's an adult, when he's an old man, and kind of in the story, the player tries to figure out what happened to this character in his life, and sort of what shaped this character, and of course through the player's choices in the game, the player can arrive at many different endings. So there's about 8 different endings planned for the game, and depending on how one chooses to play the game and on what choices they make, they may end up in a different with a different ending.
Like, now, when you say choices, like, are we talking about something done in a text box, or is that like something done in like gameplay?
Some of them are done in a text box. Um, certain ways, certain ways in which the player responds to different dialogue options. But some things are done in within gameplay. Some of them are things that happen in a given moment, in a specific moment in time, when that choice may occur. Others are choices that are happening throughout the game, different ways that the player is engaging with the experience that kind of is essentially kept track of in certain heuristical ways, and that may also determine the different ending that they will have.
Sounds interesting, if nothing else. And I think you mentioned something about Jungian psychology
Yep.
or Jungian. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So Carl Jung is a big inspiration um, for the game, um, and his psychic model that uses different psychic archetypes that he described um, has played a pivotal role in the way that we have designed the characters in the game. So playing with the idea of the the various characters that you encounter throughout the experience might be different representations of your own inner psychology, and they might be doing things that are forcing you to acknowledge certain work that or certain things that maybe the character hasn't been um, facing within himself, and they're sort of emerging through the conscious surface in an attempt to basically come to terms or to force the issue, if you will. So an
and
example of something like that might be, in the inner child archetype, let's say, manifesting in the dream, because the entire storyline is told through the world of dreams. So the character is dreaming, right? And of course, we know that anything is possible in the dream, and dreams are really um, areas where the most fantastical things can happen to us. And we wake up and we may remember some of the dreams that we have. So we've chosen to tell the story of Jake through a dreamscape. So there's sort of a continuous Metroidvania like dreamscape that the player goes through and um, travels in and out of different areas and different realms, different dreams. Um, and within those dreams, different characters are encountered, and some of these characters are just characters in the story and in the dream of the main character, and some of the characters may represent uh, certain aspects of the main character's psychology or psyche.
hmm. And how is this going to play out in a Metroidvania setting?
Well, many of the characters that are representations of Jake's psyche are encountered multiple times throughout the experience in different ways. So, for example, uh, the character of Burning Boy um, is one of the main nemesis of of Jake, and that particular character represents the unhealed, wounded inner child um, of the main character, and the player would encounter Burning Boy at different times in different ways, and there is a specific story arc, of course, for Burning Boy, and that kind of evolves throughout the Metroidvania. And some areas are, as is sort of, I suppose, conventional for a Metroidvania game. Some areas are locked until the player gains a specific power or unlocks them by doing a certain puzzle. And other areas are unlocked, and there's various different ways of traversing um, the entire map of the game.
Hmm. And how is that going to be translated into gameplay and upgrades? Like,
Yeah,
is your double jump a representation of childhood or something like that?
no, I should mention a couple more important story pieces that will provide some clarity. But those are really good questions. So the character has undergone some trauma. There's some events that take place in his childhood that have caused him to be traumatized, for lack of a better description. And of course, trauma is something that we in our modern Western society have been hearing a lot of, and there really are two kind of sides to our I suppose social um, perception of trauma, and people that talk about trauma. So one of them is sort of a certain aversion towards it, and the and the argument there is that we as a society are becoming soft, and men particularly are becoming um, more and more feminine, and therefore we shouldn't really talk about trauma as men. We should just be strong warrior like in our physical appearance, and stoic like in our psychological predisposition. That's sort of one emergent treatment of the word trauma in our society, and the other one is a little bit more, I would say, welcoming, in a sense that it sort of goes like, well, if you are a man and you have experienced trauma, then it's important to work on that trauma. It's important to figure out the source of it, and work through it in an effort to first of all know more about yourself as a human being, and secondly to heal from that wound. Obviously, we know that sometimes when we get physically hurt, that physical suffering, that physical pain can translate into a wound that needs to be treated, right? So that is something that, because we can observe that and we can see it with our own eyes, and it's not it doesn't take a gigantic leap of faith to be like, well, yeah, if you have a wound, then you have to heal the wound, a physical wound, and you go to the doctor to do it, and they might give you antibiotics if the wound is infected, and you might battle with that wound for years, even sometimes, right? With people that have like really complicated physical wounds. Well, psychological wounds are kind of similar, but they're a little bit more insidious. They're a little bit more insidious because they are uh, difficult to get at. And what I mean by that is that first and foremost, they're difficult to recognize even within oneself, because there is a there is a certain biological mechanism built into our human condition, which uh, causes us to want to be accepted in our tribe. And that's like that's an evolutionary mechanism that's built into our psyche. It basically says that, like, if we're not accepted, then we're on the outskirts, and we might get banished. And if we're on the outskirts and we are going to get banished from society, then that spells a certain doom for us, because back in thousands of years ago, that if that were to happen to us, we most certainly would die in the wild, right? So there is a need to belong. There's a need to be accepted. um, it is not easy to back that that very strong need and say, well, actually, I think I have a wound that I picked up when I was a kid, or I picked up when I was an adult, and this wound needs to be treated. That is an admission of weakness. That is within oneself, right? That's a certain, um, I suppose, you know, that will be faced with a disapproval by some people in one's in one's kind of circle of I guess friends and family members, and society at large, quite frankly. So,
Indeed.
sorry,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead. I said I've talked a bunch. You go ahead.
Well, what I want to ask in relation to this is, not only is this a very heady subject, it's a very sensitive one. Um, so I'm wondering how you're going to go about doing it without seeming to be insensitive about, psychological trauma or associated things wherein.
Well, this is where I'm using the Jungian psychic model, because I'm not smart enough to be able to tell this story without using uh, something a model that I believe is fairly comprehensive and fairly robust, that is able to translate this kind of story of trauma into a video game. And in terms of how does one deal with telling a story of trauma, where some people might find it insensitive, others might find it offensive, maybe even. That is not. It's a difficult path to walk, for sure. One must walk it with a lot of humility and care, and that's what we've been trying to do with the game. It is important to say at the outset that trauma traumas are very different, and people deal with them in different ways, and they heal from them. Well, the healing actually is different, but it's also similar in some ways. There's only there isn't an infinite amount of different ways of healing from trauma. There are certain methodologies and certain tools and certain ways of approaching oneself. But I do want to say something about trauma in general. Healing from trauma is also living, if that makes sense. It's part of one's life. It's part of figuring out oneself in life. It's not disconnected from life. In fact, it's very much part of one's life and part of the journey. the overarching journey. That I'm not saying that the game is a template for how to heal from trauma. It's an entertainment product first and foremost, but it is aimed at perhaps illuminating this subject from the perspective of Carl Jung's um, psychic archetypes.
Quite. And so we've been so we've been talking about trauma in both psychological terms and very abstract terms. Now I'm not sure if this is spoiler territory or not, but I am also wondering, like, what is the specific trauma that the protagonist here is going to be working through? Because there are, as you noted, different kinds of trauma, and there's also, like, how do I put this? Different levels of trauma, like.
Yeah, it's the one, Adam. It's the one that we will all experience in our lifetimes. It's grief, the universal trauma of the human condition, which is basically something that we will all go through, right? To your point, to varying, in varying degrees, but we grief and loss are things that are very universal in our I guess in our human experience, right? We all go through times which may be very difficult for us, when maybe we have lost someone that's been close to us, or maybe we will lose someone that's close to us, and this could be, something like losing a family member to cancer, or it could be something like losing a relationship, or losing a pet that we've had a very deep connection with. So these are kind of the universal experience that we all go through. So
Yeah.
grief is what the game explores.
Okay. Uh, yeah, that is definitely a traumatic experience that people will go through. Um, like, I'm going to go on a limb here and assume it's closer to, like, losing your wife in an accident kind of trauma versus, losing your grandfather to cancer. Um, if only because one is a bit more visceral than the other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's in this particular case is losing your mom at a young age.
Yeah,
So this main character has, is battling with grief as a result of losing his mom at a young age, and that grief is something that is the character doesn't recognize for a long time, and then at some point they do. They recognize, and that's when they embark on the healing journey. Um, and that's kind of the unfolding of that story is what Endless Night is. The second part of the title, which we haven't talked about, the darkness within. What is the darkness within? And that is also where Carl Jung comes to the rescue and offering an archetype for that, and the archetype is the shadow. So the game is an exploration of grief, as well as it's also an exploration of um, embracing one's shadow, or reconciling one's shadow within oneself. So the idea there being that we all have a shadow side. That's kind of our dark side, um, and the the dark side within each and every one of us exists, whether we are conscious of it or whether we're not, whether we want to admit it or whether we don't want to admit it. And oftentimes, you know, we have to take a step back and say and ask the question of who are we as as human beings, as individuals growing up, in our case in Western society, right? And what ideas and patterns have shaped our mind to today, to this date. And there's a whole bunch of sociological kind of um, consciousness and tradition and rituals and religion and society and parents and grandparents and books and everything else that we have, um, that have basically made us who we are today. And in psychological terms, this would be called the superego, from, to use kind of the language of Freud, right? The superego. So the superego is this collection of all of that, and that forms part of who we are. And the stuff that is shoved under the carpet, swept under the carpet, the stuff that we don't want to deal with, the things that we don't like about ourselves, the things that we know that we shouldn't do, the things that we know that we shouldn't think but we can't help to think, all those things form the the psychic shadow within us. So we each have one, and each one of our shadows is a little bit different but also similar. And the idea of Endless Night is, how does one come to terms with their shadow, and what is the shadow? And the shadow in the game, in our game, is one of is a character that the player encounters several times throughout the experience. And what happens exactly, obviously I can't speak to that because that would be a spoiler. But there is a journey of coming to terms with one's shadow, and there is a conflict around there. There is a potential resolution, and there's different ways in which the player can resolve that conflict.
Right. That ties back to the multiple endings you mentioned, I
Exactly.
imagine.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly right.
Hmm. So, is this all taking place in the world of dreams slash the mind, or are there going to be like outside segments as an act break or something like that?
They there was an outside segment in the game originally, and then we opted for not having it. But there will most likely be some breaks through the dream, areas where the dream layer is going to thin out, and reality will kind of peek through. So there will be some areas like that.
Okay. Yeah, I figured there'd have to be something attaching you a bit to the real world.
Yeah, and who the character is in the real world, and all that stuff. Yep, definitely.
Right. And I suppose that begs a question that we haven't really asked yet. And who is James?
Jacob.
Jacob. Okay.
Who is Jacob?
Yeah.
Well, he is an ordinary man in a lot of ways. Um, there in the dream, in the dream content of the game, he experiences different things. He experiences. So maybe I'll talk about the four different realms that he goes through. There's the childhood realm, the war realm, the uh, darkness realm, and the transcendence realm. So in the war realm, for example, Jake is um, someone that is involved in the military. He is a pilot. He pilots a gigantic bomber that requires multiple crew members, and he basically takes orders from his commanding officer to go on bombing runs and bomb certain strategic places. And on one of those runs, he goes out and gets the wrong coordinates that basically lead him to bomb a residential area instead of a munitions warehouse that he was supposed to bomb. But unfortunately, there is a mistake made by the navigator of the plane, and they stray off course, and they bomb a residential area, killing a family um, in a house. Basically, a mother, a father, and a kid, and a young kid. So there is a price to be paid for that in psychological terms. So he's haunted by that. Um, and in the world of dreams, dreams are very complicated. They're. I mean, you guys all dream. I'm sure you've had some dreams that you remembered, and you know how crazy dreams can be. So the character of Burning Boy is kind of amalgamation of the child that he kills on that bombing ride, as well as his own injured inner child. Now, does that happen, this bombing run, does that happen in reality, or does that happen in the dream only? That's something that, is not, I'm not going to go into and explain, but there's differences between reality and the dream world. So you asked previously, are there going to be areas where reality is just kind of, Jake is a real person? And the answer is yes. Um, and and the dream world, there may be things that happen in the dream world that have nothing to do with him um, in reality. In reality, he's not uh, a, a pilot that that has bombed a family. That is not who he is in reality. But in the dream world, that is in the war realm, is that is who he is there. And of course,
And
the question is like, well, why? So
right,
so why is it represented like this? And
like, and another question that springs forth is, um, you mentioned the main trauma is going to be the the dealing of loss of the mother at a young age. Um, but is there going to be like secondary trauma because this happens during a bombing raid, and that action would certainly cause its own trauma. Living through a war is a trauma of a different sort.
yeah, so there is secondary trauma, and the secondary trauma is violence.
Hmm.
And violence takes on different forms. And in the game itself, there is a literal violence that happens in the life of Jake. Again, as
Mhm.
a child, these are all childhood traumas, right? So these are all things that have happened to the character during his childhood. There's all and this childhood trauma in the dream manifests as war. So the manifestation of the trauma and the way that this trauma is showcased in the dream is through war, because war, the interesting thing about war is that it is the ultimate conclusion of the unresolved trauma, and as it manifests in in our own reality. So war is the ultimate. If you look at humans from, let's say you're an alien traveling through the galaxies, different galaxies, and you all of a
Mhm.
sudden you find yourself stumbling on the Milky Way, and you follow it, and you go and get into our solar system, and you checking for different life forms, and like, oh shit, okay, there is this one planet, it's blue and green, it's planet Earth, let me zoom in here, and oh, there seems to be a species living on this planet that walks on two legs and has a developed brain and is capable of emotion and understands their own kind of place in the universe, highly intelligent. Oh, what is that? They're building a lot of weapons to kill each other, and they're destroying their own environment that they're living in, and they're killing each other right now. Oh my god, what a riot. What is this self-destructive species living on planet Earth? Well, that's humans basically. That's us. And war is the ultimate manifestation of our trauma in our real world. And to make a video game, for me, I know that Endless Night is a very literal representation of one's psyche and humanity, but I kind of wanted it to be this way for this particular game. I wanted the game to be very literal, very on the nose, very much. You kind of you know what you're getting into when you're playing the game, and you understand sort of like, okay, it's very literal. It's because I feel like I can do a proper examination of what I want to do in the game by making it like that. And of course, there's things that are a lot more, uh, I would say, allegorical and metaphorical in that experience as well. It's not just an on the nose kind of thing, but it is an examination of trauma and how trauma pertains to our real world that we're all living in and experiencing right now.
And now this question may be a bit sensitive, but I do think it needs to be asked. Are you drawing anything personal into this game?
Yeah, absolutely. Drawing some personal, you know, life experiences and learnings and and yeah, and journeys that I have experienced. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Uh,
not
I
surprising.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You mentioned, is this one dream or is this like multiple dreams where you take a break from the dream world and see Jake's like life outside of the dream?
It is one dream that morphs into that's kind of like a collection of dreams. So the dreams kind of intertwine and transition, but there are areas within this one giant dream where you do see Jake outside of the dream, and you do come across these areas where the dream layer is very thin, and you kind of peek through it, and you experience Jake as he is in the real world, and yeah,
So is this like,
definitely.
is the dream happening even while Jake's not asleep, or is this all like one night per se? Or is that
It's
spoilers you
all
can't really get into?
No. This is a great question. It does happen all within one night, within one continuous dream kind of session.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake goes to sleep, has this crazy dream that's basically the playing of Endless Night, the Darkness Within, and then wakes up, and that's it. It's the end of the game.
Fair enough. I think that's it I have for right now. So if you have any more, Adam.
I do. And that's to shift the conversation a bit because, we've been talking on and on about the story and the themes. I think it's a good time to talk a bit about the gameplay and the development. Because, like, I think you mentioned that this game has been worked on in total for 10 years, but when did it first become Endless Night as we would know it today?
About 4 years ago, I want to say, roughly. I can give
Okay.
you the exact. I'm just looking for it. I'm looking for the exact date uh, when that came to be. Um, looks like it
Live
was in March 20, like around July 2022.
Mm.
Okay.
So 2023, 24, 25. Yeah, it's more than 3 years ago, actually.
Okay, not a huge surprise, given the nature of indie games. Like, how many people have been working on this?
It's been in development, so it's not actively being worked on right now. There is a demo of it, and we're trying to figure out how to secure further funding to finish it. But we have a demo on it of it on Steam. It's about 1 hour currently, and we've worked on it for 2 years, roughly. Um, that's when we got the team together. It took the idea has been conceptualized for 3+ years, but the actual development of it has taken place across maybe 2 years, and the team size that has worked on it was anywhere between 3 people to 6 people towards the end when we were finishing things up, maybe even 7 people.
And I'm assuming that it's been difficult finding investors for this project.
Absolutely. It's super niche. It's super, yeah, it's super niche. It's super sort of, well, it's super niche, and it also plays in a genre that is a difficult one. That is the Metroidvania genre is pretty saturated, pretty difficult. Um, but yeah, that's where we're at.
And that's unfortunate. Have you given consideration to doing a Kickstarter campaign?
Yes, but I think um, the timing of it might be a little bit. Basically, I want to do it when we as a studio are a little bit more well known, and because our chances of succeeding at that time will be much greater. So we just have to wait a little bit. Not long, maybe another year or so. Um, we do have another game in development right now that we're very excited about. And it's sort of, Endless Night is very much a passion project of mine. And it was sort of, it's very much a labor of love. And it's difficult to work on a project like that because it's always going to be very personal to for example, to me. And if we're working together, let's say you and me, Adam, you're not going to find it as exciting necessarily because it's that's kind of the drawback of working on a very personal project, as opposed to the project that we're working on right now is something that everybody on the team has fully embraced and loves working on, and I think that that's going to be our, our, um, I guess, I don't know what to call it, a breakout hit potentially. Obviously, I don't want to. You don't want to jinx anything and say that we're going to have a breakout hit, but I'm very excited about this new project that we're working on, and the entire team is excited. And it's sort of like it's a different vibe, when you're working on a project like that versus Endless Night is very much. It's much more of a somber reflection, introspective thing. It's a much more difficult project. It's not really a money maker per se, right? Which is crazy because we're living in a day and age where you have to be concerned with making money in video games because it's very difficult out there.
Mm. Like, I'd imagine this is also a very emotionally draining project, given the
Oh,
subject matter.
absolutely, absolutely. It's
Like,
absolutely emotionally draining, and seeing the reception, and it really is the myth of Sisyphus, in terms of like a video game project. It is very much a myth of Sisyphus, and so when am I going to continue working on it? I have no idea, but it is one of those things that, having worked in this industry for a long time, uh, I do want to come back to it because it matters to me. It's one of those things that matters to me personally. I think it's interesting. I think it's fun as well because the main character also is like a crazy martial artist in the game. So there's a lot of fun. Navigating the character, fighting mechanics, evolving the different gear. There's like a very deep RPG element to the game where you can get different gear, and different gear changes the way that the character responds, and like the character flows once you unlock all the moves. It flows really nicely. So it's just for me, the game is like a joy to play. When I sit down and I play it, I have a lot of fun, and I just want to continue, continue exploring that world and continue to develop this game. But when the time is right for it to continue, I have no idea. Could be a year from now, could be 6 months from now, could be 3 years from now. I don't know really.
unfortunate, but that is the reality of the industry for a good amount of people working in it. Um,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
being that being said, it is worth addressing what you have in active development right now, and I assume it's Wings of Wanatu.
No, so Wings of Wanted is another project that is on hold currently.
Okay.
We have completed a prototype for it. We won't be restarting that one also probably for another few years, simply because the virtual reality market is really it's not really it's
Yeah,
not really where we want it to be yet. Um, I
we've
mean,
heard from other VR developers that the VR market's kind of flatlined.
it
Um,
has flatlined. It has flatlined for sure. It's flatlined, and but I don't think it's dead, and I don't think it's flatlined forever. I think there will be a time where it will pick up again. And when that happens, we probably will go back to Wings of Wanty. But the project that we're developing right now, I can't talk about it. I can't say a lot about it other than it is a PC title, and it is a multiplayer title, and it is, if I could say, the pinnacle of our expertise as a studio, as of our growth as a studio, of all of our trials and tribulations and failures and successes and lessons learned. It's the culmination of all of those things. And it is a really, really interesting, really unique, really different kind of game that I think a lot of people are going to find interesting. And it plays already in this current state. It plays really well. And we will be looking for a publisher for it in January. So we'll be sending it out to publishers to check out. And yeah, it's a wonderful project, and our team is very excited about it. Um, it's a joy, basically logging into work every day because every day you see something really interesting and really um, impactful and wonderful. Um, so so it's a joy working on it, and it's I am living the dream to be perfectly transparent and frank with you guys. I'm living the dream right now, working on this project, on this new project. So very excited about it, and hopefully we'll be able to announce it within the next few months.
It sounds intriguing. The passion shines through even in the vagaries that you are talking about in the present time. And yeah, certainly we would like to talk more about it, but since this is about all we can do right now, so
Yeah, I
but yeah.
can't wait. Let me just say one more thing. I can't wait to for us for the entire team at LGG to be able to share this project with the world, because I think it's going to be very cool and very interesting, and we're certainly looking forward to it.
Well, when the project's announced and actually ready to be talked about in an open setting, we'll certainly be in contact. Um, but until then, we have to kind of leave it there. Um, and indeed, I suppose we're about at the end here. My final question for you at this point is: do you have any other projects you are working on that we haven't touched upon yet?
No, that's it. That's it for now. I am back playing. There was a time period over the last few years that I haven't really been gaming as much. I've kind of stopped playing video games and just really focused on getting the Endless Night demo out, and really, sort of in a bit of a I don't know, in a bit of a hall, one would say, in terms of like being a bit um, perhaps jaded with myself and kind of my role in the industry. But lately, that has changed, and I'm back on the playing bandwagon, and I'm able to enjoy games again and having fun and blasting away and playing several games right now, and so it's I'm glad, and I'm happy that I'm playing games again and really rejoicing and enjoying it and remembering why I got into this industry in the first place, just to have fun and have a blast. Games are amazing, and I was just hearing you guys talk about the games that you're playing, and just it's such a great medium. I'm really happy that we're all part of it. It's
Indeed.
awesome.
Uh, yeah, as am I, as are we, I think.
Mhm.
At least I am. Um, anyway, on that note, I'll see if my colleagues here have any final thoughts for you.
I think I'm good.
Yes, I think everything I was curious about has been covered.
Okay. All right. So Tom, it was very good to have you back on the program. In the much stabler settings in order to talk about your passion project, and indeed the other projects that are either being worked on or one day will be worked on once again, given market conditions. But
Right on.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, Adam. Thanks for your time. Thank you, guys. This was a very smooth one. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Yes, I'm glad we could make up for last time as well. So, anyway, the game is Endless Night, The Darkness Within. So, as you heard, the game isn't in active development right now, but what you can do is you can go and wishlist it on Steam. And as I understand it, that helps with things, helps with the logarithm that Steam has, etc., etc., etc. And it also has a demo available for you to sample. Maybe not representative of the final project, but it is a vertical slice of what this idea is going to be. So, be sure to give that a try. Today, tomorrow, soon. Is the demo a limited time thing, or is it staying up indefinitely?
It will stay up indefinitely. So definitely, whenever you get to it, give it a try and let us know what you think about it.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragment. Oh, sorry, this segment. Jumping ahead, force a habit because it's almost 11 o'clock, and usually we're in the getting ready for MSP mode. MSP is not being broadcast, so Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So we are going to be talking about a Metroid Prime game. Because, well, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has, after a very long and tumultuous development cycle, finally been released to the wider world.
Indeed.
And we are not going to be talking about that one, nor are we going to be talking about the obvious one, the first one. Because I think we've already talked about that at some point. But
I
I'm
would
pretty
be
sure.
shocked if we hadn't, is more of the thing there.
Right. But what I am pretty sure that we haven't talked about yet is Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
And if we, it would be more if we haven't talked about it in this current configuration the show's in.
Possibly.
I wouldn't be shocked if
but
it was discussed briefly when Naka and Ogre were still around, but I don't recall you, me, and Gullix discussing it.
yeah. I mean, and if I talked about it with Ogre and Naka, that's about 100,000 years ago in terms of the show.
Right.
So I'm sure we can dig it up for a proper occasion.
Right.
Now, I suppose the question here is, who among us has actually played Metroid Prime 2?
I have, but it was on. I have not played it on original hardware. It was on the Trilogy Collection on the Wii U.
It was the Wii, right?
Right.
Though, I do think it got a digital release on the Wii U,
Yeah.
but it was still the Wii version.
Yeah, and that's how I played it. So some of the intricacies of
I've seen it played some, but I've never played it myself.
Okay, yeah. So, not only did I play Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, that was the main game I played during holiday 2004. And let me tell you, that was actually a bit of a rough time. Not so much the game itself, but more the context of that time period. So, what are people talking about at that stage? They're talking about Half-Life 2. They're talking about Metroid Prime 3. They're talking about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. They're talking about Halo 2. I remember all of these games being in conversation both at college and online. And here I am with my GameCube, and I'm playing Metroid Prime 2. Nobody's talking about this game. And that's kind of the story of Metroid Prime 2. It's the one that people don't really talk about in comparison to the other Metroid Prime game.
I don't know. I recall it being talked about a bit in terms of how annoying a couple of the mechanics in it are.
I'm talking about in terms of the big titles. And I'm talking about in terms of its own franchise. Because, when we talk about Metroid Prime, usually we're talking about Metroid Prime 1. Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 are much less discussed. Metroid Prime 2, there are a couple of reasons for that. One, it came out in 2004. By that point, the GameCube market had pretty bottomed out. Maybe not to the level of late stage, say, Wii U, but it was pretty dire there in comparison to the PlayStation 2 and even the Xbox. And Metroid Prime 3, while in one of the earlier Wii titles, that is a hardcore niche first-person adventure game, even if they did try to make it more like, say, Halo, and less Metroid-like. It's a game that kind of went against the grain in terms of what the Wii was servicing. You dig? So that that's why they're not talked about nearly as much. You can even see it in the sales. Like Metroid Prime 1, even before the remaster, was by far the best-selling Metroid Prime game. So, just in terms of numbers, that is a big reason why. But yeah, Metroid Prime 2 is also known as the controversial one. Though I suppose Metroid Prime 3 is controversial in its own way, but that's having to do with structure, and we're not talking about that one. Metroid Prime 2 is controversial because of the way it handled certain mechanics. I call it the annoying one. Because
this is a game with a light world, dark world gimmick for most of the game because of alien bullshit on the planet you spend most of the game on.
Yes.
And that manifests in two primary ways. Three primaries. One is you get a dark suit and a light suit as your main upgrades. Two is that when you have light and dark beams with ammunition that you have to use against many of the enemies in this game, and the only way to make enemies drop one type of animation or ammunition is to kill them with the other one.
Yeah,
and the other thing about the light and dark thing is that the reason why you get a dark suit and a light suit as your main upgrades in this thing is because of the environment of the dark world and the light world contains many areas that have atmosphere that is damaging over time to Samus unless you have the appropriate upgrade to prevent you from taking damage, and the one that makes it that prevents you from taking damage for most of it is very late in the game.
Yeah. It's annoying to traverse the dark world. I still remember how annoyed I was at, going through that. Once again, it was an interesting thing from a design perspective. Execution kind of left something to be desired. And That's the majority opinion on it. I know there are people who absolutely love everything about that setup, because like Metroid Prime 2 is a significantly more difficult game because of it. Like, but it's like literally half the game is like the acid swamp, or that one area that's really hazardous to your health and drains, but it's always there until you get the proper suit. So what they were trying to do is basically make the Dark World one big puzzle area. I guess technically speaking, lots and lots and lots and lots of mini puzzles, because the Dark World chambers very often were, how do I get to the door? How do I use the light oases to get to the door without dying? Once again, interesting idea, questionable execution. At least in my estimation. But oddly enough, not the biggest source of irritation. At least not from the online commentators. You'd think it would be, but no. When it comes to expressions of frustration in regards to this game, it's with the item collection. Specifically, the subset of the mini bosses that are made out of your Metroid Prime 1 attire and weapons and so on and so forth. Because once again, they do the Metroid thing of having a very powered up Samus at the beginning, and then very quickly into the actual game, she's powered down. That's a tradition that carries on to, Metroid Prime 4.
I mean, to be fair, that's been a tradition in all basically Metroidvanias since Super Metroid.
Super Metroid didn't bother with the pretense of powering you down. You just...
Yeah, Super Metroid never gave you an excuse. And
Yeah.
also, Samus didn't have that many power-ups at the end of Metroid 1 or 2 the first time around, although she did have a Varia suit.
Didn't her suit get damaged, and like part of it was you lost the Varia suit?
Nope.
Huh.
Believe it or not, all of that was invented in Metroid Prime.
Huh.
You could make the argument Metroid Fusion, but Metroid Fusion, you're not downgraded, you're literally altered.
I mean, they did surgically remove most of the suit, but that's the first time they gave an excuse in the 2D games.
Right.
In the first game, it was just, oh hey, she's starting from scratch on this mission, and in Super, it was just, oh, she's starting from scratch, and in 2, it was just, oh, she's starting from scratch on this mission, and then in Super, it's, oh, she's starting from scratch on this mission.
Yeah, weirdly, it was, Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Fusion literally came out the same day, so they're kind of this joint origin of this Metroid trope. For whatever reason, they decided that they had to explain why Samus got depowered, even though it was never an issue beforehand. And nobody bothers to complain about having to collect stuff in Super Metroid. And I know there are people who find okay, Metroid Prime's power down scenario is rather lame, and it is. It's like you're hit with a bit of lightning and you just lose your powers. But on the other hand, guys, we have to do this, or it's not a Metroid game.
Right.
Look, if you have a
3D games have a slightly different, and these games have more lore, have a slightly different history and precedent is the word I was looking for, in terms of caring about that kind of thing.
Right.
i.e.,
Right.
they're more likely to. Plus, Banjo-Kazooie was a good 3D game precedent to the counter, where the second game does actually let you keep everything you had, and then you just have to get new upgrades, which, considering the amount of stuff with the Dark and Light system, you might have been able to get away with in Metroid Prime 2,
Right.
though you'd still, I don't know, the percentage of, or the amount of missiles and stuff that you could carry is still something you might need to figure out,
what
and health
what
is stuff you might need to worry about.
once again, Metroid Prime 2's idea was sound. Much more sound than Metroid Prime 1's power down scenario. As in, you hit the planet, you hit Luminoth, you get ambushed by the Ing, they take your stuff. Fine. That's a perfectly cromulent scenario. The problem is fighting them. There's a ton of these mini bosses, and fighting some of them are really annoying. Like the Spring Ball and the Spider Ball Guardians. Trying to remember which one in particular. I want to say the Spring Ball, but it could have been the Spider Ball. They're both kind of shit, though. Once again, it's been 20 years since I played this game, so forgive me if my memory about a specific boss is a bit fuzzy. That being said, the main bosses are some of the best in the franchise. Like Quadraxis comes to mind. And the fight with Dark Samus. Much better than Metroid Prime. Oh, right. In case you didn't know, Dark Samus is actually Metroid Prime combined with the... Oh, geez. I'm trying to remember which suit it was. The Phazon suit.
Yeah, the Phazon suit gets ripped out of you at the end of Prime and basically becomes sentient, because it was it the Queen Metroid that took it over, or just the heap of Phazon in it?
I just literally said it's a combination of Metroid Prime and the Phazon suit.
Right.
Like, and relevant to the discussion of Metroid Prime 4, for better or for worse, this is the origin of the Galactic Federation. Specifically, the Grunts.
Well,
in fact,
origin of
apparently
us dealing with them, they've existed. If you look at the manuals and like the comics, they've been there just in the background.
And technically, they're the reason you had to deal with Adam in Prime Fusion.
Yeah.
They gave you a new ship in exchange. Deal with this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but keep in mind, Adam was at that point the Samus's onboard computer.
Right.
We wouldn't get to know the actual Adam Malkovich until Other M.
Oh, no, I'm just saying they're responsible for a lot of the shit you had to deal with in Fusion, was the ship's AI, like, fucking with you.
Yes, I'm talking about specifically the soldiers on the ground. They actually get introduced here, and you get a bit of interaction with them, but they're quickly, like, killed off.
Yeah.
It's actually, like, the first time we see NPCs in this capacity, kind of heralding their future appearances, and the Metroid Prime developer, the Metroid Prime 4 developers, specifically, I think the producer on these titles has said that they wanted to do what they did in Metroid Prime 4 on Metroid Prime 2, but they didn't have the time and the processing power to do it. Like, make of that what you will. Because I am very well aware of how controversial what's his name is. Like, Miles?
Yeah. Although there's apparently more than one NPC in...
No, there's like 4 of them, I want to say. Try to guess which one is actually popular with the fan base. Hint, it's the #1 Samus fangirl. Like, Yeah, that was the least surprising thing for very Yuri-ish reasons. I'm like,
I know I've
but
heard at least one person say that even that one was annoying, but
I know, like, I'm not saying that she's well liked, but she's the most tolerated because lesbians. Look, don't look. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing online here. Okay, I'm not. I'm not saying they're actually right. Okay, like, yeah, personally, I find the idea of the AI sidekicks abhorrent to a Metroid title, and I'm glad that they are limited in their capacity.
well, I mean, I know we're not trying to go into four so much, but that is kind of the main complaint I've seen is from the positions of people who firmly believe that there should not be NPC dialogue in a Metroid game.
I mean, that boat kind of sailed with Metroid Prime 3.
I mean, I
Like,
know that,
right, I'm just saying, like,
and every other Metroid game since,
yeah,
and actually
like,
Fusion even.
right, and like Dread has Adam, quote unquote,
Hmm.
you know. Yeah, point is, it's actually been a long time since Samus has been able to wander around alone. And honestly, I think the last time, well, technically speaking, is Metroid Prime Hunters. But nobody counts that.
Right.
Even though, like, Hunter counts, if only because that's where the bounty hunters come from. Specifically, like, this is where Silex comes from. Like, but Metroid Prime 2, that's probably the most solitary game of the bunch. Depending on how you want to look at the, I'm trying to remember the Luminoth spirit you interact with, but he's more like the quest giver. You know, you go to him, you get your mission, and then you go off. It's just, I find Metroid Prime 2 more isolating because of the Dark World stuff.
Well,
So I
also
guess
the
it's
the following characters die really quickly, and then you're on your own.
yes.
It's not like you're
Um,
constantly checking in like Fusion, where the Atom computer is basically always there. Same where when he returns in Dread.
yeah, and you do have Dark Samus trying to do an SAX impression and not really landing because everything Dark Samus does is scripted until, you know, you have her boss fight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, I, so, like, you know, you'll encounter her, but like, it's just like from an observational status.
Yeah.
And I think another thing about Metroid Prime 2 is, how do I put this? It really tries to distance itself from, well, Metroid. Like, by that I mean the Ing saga here is very standalone. Not completely. Like, you do have a certain type of Metroid, like Metroids barely feature into this.
Mm-hmm.
The space pirates are there, but once again, the space pirates are just kind of there because they're expected to be there.
Well, and if I recall where this fits in plot-wise, most of the Metroids are dead other than what shows up in, near the end of Prime 1, and were there even any in 2?
Yes.
Prime is between 1 and 2, isn't it?
I thought it was
Or is it
just
between 2 and
after.
Super?
I thought it was just
No, 'cause
after
there's almost
2.
No, because there's almost nothing between 2 and Super, because Super literally starts with her dropping off the Metroid from 2 at the first research station she comes to. I'm pretty sure the
Now,
Prime games are before 2, so Metroids are still a thing. They're just almost only on SR388.
Well, yeah, that's the whole
Yeah,
thing. You're not really prepared for dealing with Metroids because you think they're mostly gone.
They're mostly not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Metroid Prime 2 gets fuzzy with the timeline. Like, it's a lot less referential to future events and past events than Metroid Prime 1 was. Metroid Prime 1 was much more, oh, hey, we are establishing that Mother Brain is regenerating and Meta Ridley exists because, Samus taught Ridley a new asshole, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And, Metroid Prime 2 has none of that baggage. And also, the Metroid Prime games getting around the whole, the Samus Metroid genocide thing by having Metroids on other worlds. Like in Metroid Prime 1, you're fighting Talon 4 Metroids,
Right.
which are considered like a different species.
And they're
Which was,
mutated and they don't evolve the same way or
yeah,
metamorphose the same way
yeah,
as SR388 Metroids.
yes. And I think this is also pre the revelation that the Chozo were actually the engineers of the Metroids.
I believe so.
Or maybe no, I think it's alongside, because I'm trying to remember if that was revealed in Metroid Fusion. I think that came in Metroid Fusion. So it would have been right, once again, since the games literally came out the same day,
Yeah,
it'd be a
it probably would have to be
parallel.
since they're discussing that they were created to kill the X parasite. So you might be right on that.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I haven't touched
Yeah.
Fusion in over a decade, so
Yeah, trying to remember the lore here, but like a lot of this stuff just doesn't matter in Metroid Prime 2. Once
we can
again,
get Knock
the
in here if he wants to scream for half an hour.
I'm sure. But like I said, the Metroids are there mainly as the the continued genetic experiments of the space pirates.
Yeah.
And they're conducting not just more phase-on tests, but they're like trying to use the ing, and that kind of and that backfires on them.
Mhm.
They get corrupted by the ing, same as anyone else does. But like I said, they really feel very side story-ish compared to the ing themselves. Um, the ing are the main antagonists, and the secondary antagonist is Dark Samus. So the space pirates are the tertiary, literally the tertiary antagonist here, because they're third on the rung here. Like, I'm not sure if that matters a whole much to Metroid fans, but that is a thing I noted back in 2004, because it's a bit of a contrast
I
to
guess it
Metroid
depends on
Prime.
how much you care about the conflict being Samus versus Space Pirates specifically, instead of Samus versus whatever stupid thing is fucking the galaxy this week.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. In terms of Metroid Prime, it's very relevant, at least the original trilogy. Not sure how much the Space Pirates factor into Metroid Prime 4, but they are the main antagonists in Metroid Prime 1, and I believe Metroid Prime 3.
Yeah. I think partly the reason you went to the plan on 2 is they thought space pirates were there, but it was the ing.
Yeah. It's also the Metroid Prime games, these are the Metroid titles that really establishes the space pirates as a race, as a culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of their background information, a lot of their psychology, a lot of their everything, their lore and backstory,
Yeah,
if you will.
before the only one that even had any sort of lore was just Ridley. The rest of them were just nameless mooks.
Yeah. In fact, like, we didn't see the space pirates until Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, some people like that, and some people are Nakatalele. I haven't forgotten how he feels about the space pirates. But
And even then, it took several games for them to really finalize what they look like.
Right. Are we still here?
I am. Adam, did you go somewhere?
He might have, or he might be having connection problems.
hello?
There you are.
Yeah, sorry, I disconnected my microphone.
Ah,
Well, don't do that.
It's more the hub came disconnected that I have plugged in here. So anyway, as I was saying, the space pirates kind of had to get the steroid injection because the Prime games are all about scanning.
right.
And they needed all that
Injection of
background.
lore via not audio logs, but text logs.
Yes. So they needed something to fill that gap. Why not the space pirates? Anyway, in terms of Metroid Prime 2, one of the biggest, I'm trying to think of the proper word here, not upgrade, but welcome additions. That's what I think I'm going for here, is the screw attack. Because a lot of people were very upset that one of Samus's trademark, maybe the trademark item, it's either that or like the various suits. But the screw attack, so popular, there was a
The screw attack the screw attack symbol is like the logo for the series most of the time.
Right. Well, it was so popular. There was there was a major gaming website named after it about once again going on 20 years ago.
Right.
So the point is, it was a popular part of Metroid, and not having it for Samus's first 3D romp did upset some people. But
I suspect this might have had something to do with what the fuck does that look like in first person?
Mm-hmm. And the answer was when you use it, you go into third person.
Oh yeah, no.
Because first person
didn't
would
say
make
they
a man
didn't solve
vomit.
the problem. I just say that might have been the problem they were thinking about.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, yeah, it finally makes its way into Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2. Less well remembered, probably the most not remembered part of Metroid Prime 2, the multiplayer mode.
Because it had one of those.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
that was a thing.
Yeah, that's most people's reaction to, wait, Metroid Prime 2 had a multiplayer mode? Yes, it did. I never played it. it's like the definition of a tacked on multiplayer mode put there because multiplayer is popular. It's a thought process that shows up time and again in the games industry to this very day. Multiplayer is much popular than single player.
I think
We
that
need
might have been
multiplayer.
stripped out for the Wii version because I don't even remember seeing an option for it.
Well, it's in the GameCube version.
Right.
The point is, we need to tack on a multiplayer mode that will make our game sell more copies. It doesn't help if it's literally.
Well, sometimes it does if it's a good one, but
yeah, if it's literally a tacked on multiplayer mode, nobody wants to play that. And indeed, like nobody bought Metroid Prime 2 for its multiplayer. That wasn't the first person shooter type game that people were buying multiplayer for in the fall of 2004. Sorry, Nintendo. That wasn't it. And I think they got the memo on that because they haven't tried to do multiplayer in the mainline Metroid games ever again. I know Federation Force exists, but that's a spin-off title. Not a mainline title. And ditto Metroid Prime Hunters. Once again, that's considered to be like a spin-off title. Not a mainline title. So it exists. I guess it's fine. I literally have no idea because I wasn't interested in playing the multiplayer mode. Nobody I knew was interested in the multiplayer mode.
Well, and again, friendly reminder, it was local only multiplayer.
Well, this is the time I was going to college, and the GameCube was popular at college gatherings, but try to guess what we were playing at those.
Smash.
Yep. If not Smash, then like Double Dash.
This is more for the younger viewers who didn't grow up with local multiplayer only games.
Right, but the same games on a Nintendo platform kind of crop up, don't they?
Yeah.
It's like if you're doing a multiplayer session with a Nintendo platform, what are you playing? You're playing Smash Brothers, you're playing Mario Kart, you're playing Mario Party, you're playing stuff like that.
Right.
You're not busting out Metroid Prime 2. Ever. It's just not a thing that ever happened. Once again, I attended quite a few of those kind of gatherings, and put in Smash. Just
my copy of Smash Brothers literally had just the memory card in the case of a fully ready to go competitive file for the high school's gaming club. All that memory card did was a ready to go Smash file with all the characters unlocked.
Yep. Anyway, now there have been rumors that the entire Metroid Prime trilogy has been remastered, but I don't know how true those rumors are because we've only seen the first game, and I think given the relative unpopularity of Metroid Prime 2, we're going to see it on the NSO rather than...
That's the more likely spot for it, yeah.
By the way, that does not preclude the original Metroid Prime showing up on the NSO. Nintendo has done this
They've made
before.
more than one version of the same game available in different ways.
Yeah, friendly
before.
reminder, there is a Switch version of Mario 64 on a cartridge, and it's also now
Yep.
on the NSO.
Yep. Probably a thing to keep in mind with like Pikmin 1 and 2. Like Nintendo will probably just toss up the original versions because they're the original versions.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier for them to shoot up the ROM file than to compile it for the.
I think it's an ISO.
Well,
It would be nice though.
I call it
if
a
they
ROM,
would.
but I know it's technically like a disk image.
Right.
I do hope they do actually remake the other two, though.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, Metroid Prime 2's multiplayer would be online then. So maybe people would actually use it this time around, but I have my doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just feels like one of those things that's just not going to ever take. Metroid Prime has its reputation as a single player first person adventure game. And that is what it shall be, whatever tweaking that they do to the formula. Just do keep in mind, Metroid Prime 2 is one of those sequels that acts as for the expert players.
Mm.
So if you want to get into this series, also, I don't think it's the most hostile Metroid game to speedrunning, but from my understanding, it is fairly hostile to speedrunning.
Yeah, because you can't. They purposely made the
Is that just not a lot of routing options, or is
literally there's a wall that ends up being the like poisonous air stuff that you can't circumvent. So you still have to go get the suit upgrades.
For the span of the 2000s, from Metroid Prime's international release to, I don't know, Other M, Nintendo just really, really started hating speedrunning.
Mm-hmm.
They actively.
Well, the disc games, the Metroid Prime games, all have some loading zone issues that start the problem.
Well, no. Metroid Prime 1 specifically has things added to the European and Japanese versions that made speedrunner running harder. It's why the initial North American release of Metroid Prime is so sought after by the speedrunning community.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Nintendo was actively malevolent to the scene for reasons that are just not all that well known.
And it wasn't just Prime, even Fusion basically has a haha, you did a funny job, now go back and go grab your shit.
Yeah, like Nintendo was very adamant that you will play the game like this and only like this. You will not use shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute madness.
I mean, people love Super Metroid, but I think they might be slightly under analyzing the degree to which the mock ball was not intended.
Well, it's not only that, but just the people routing out hell runs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once again, Nintendo hated all of it.
Yeah.
Actively hated. It's not even that they were indifferent. No, they hated. They had an emotion towards the community. They made things harder design-wise.
Well, and two, it's not even harder. It's impossible.
Yeah. That shows malevolent intent. It's fucking bonkers. Especially given the attitudes towards speedrunning, even 15 years ago.
Hell, even sometimes now people are still getting speedrunning videos hit by the copyright gods.
Still, just one of those Nintendo things that nobody's able to explain.
Right.
Anyway, think that'll about do it for Echoes for the time being. And that will also bring to an end this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Coming up on the week ahead, no Friday show. Even if we did have a Friday show, which we don't, Petty has a dentist's appointment to attend to, so we would have had to
I
delay
think
that.
it's next week. Or no, it is this week. Never mind. I can math.
I might. Anyway, so coming up on the Sunday reviews, last reviews of the year, we will be covering Donna the Canine Quest, Other Skin, Unto Deepest Depth, Unto Deepest Depth, and The Scouring, Impressions of, since it's an early access title. And boy, this is the kind of title that is the reason why we do impressions of things. More on that on Sunday. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.